The semi-transparent Bumblebee is over 60 centimeters in height. Although the core skeleton is still based on the previous old Bumblebee, some of its structures have been optimized. In addition, as you can see, the outer surface of half of the skeleton has a semi-transparent appearance design. Since we have already published a very detailed review of the old model, in this issue, we will focus on the main upgrade points and the final actual performance. First of all, the first upgrade point is at the hip joint. You can see that the new model uses two sets of hinged arm parts with holes, while the old model uses a spherical joint connector plus a cross-axis fixing method. According to our tests, the new design is relatively less likely to have splits, and the standing stability can be felt to be significantly improved. If you want to adjust the angle of the thigh opening, the new solution will be slightly more convenient in operation. The second upgrade point is at the wings on the back. You can see that the designer used a set of push rod-like structures on the left and right, and has very large resistance. The designer added a rear hole wall and related fixing structures on the basis of the original structure to make the connection of the entire shoulder joint more secure. While the previous version of the entire shoulder, the joints can be pulled outward, including if the parts are deformed under the influence of continuous gravity after being placed. For a long time, there may be a risk of the entire arm module falling off. However, the third modification also limits the outward angle of the entire arm module, which means that the arm cannot be raised horizontally. The above are the three main upgrade points we found. Of course, there are still other small changes. The overall feeling is basically centered around the goal of increasing the stability of the entire finished product. The upgrades and optimizations are done, and the final finished product effect does feel more solid than the previous version in our actual evaluation and shooting. In particular, the changes to the hip joints improve the overall standing stability, so that we don't have to worry about the overall disintegration caused by splits during posing and shooting. Of course, it is still a building block-type mecha suit. In fact, you still need to be careful during transportation and posing, otherwise parts may fall off. In addition to the overall internal, in addition to the optimization of the skeleton structure, the semi-transparent part of this Bumblebee is also a very noteworthy place. After testing, there is a module at the shoulder position, a module on the arm, a module on the chest position, and a module on each side of the abdomen. These places are relatively easy to fall off, so in the process of transportation and playing, you need to try to avoid these places or do some gluing. The fixation of most other appearance modules is still relatively firm. However, like the old version, the arm uses 28-foot small turntable parts, and the flat swivel joint position is still because this set of parts itself is relatively loose, so it is also easy to fall off. On the whole, this setting is an upgraded and optimized product based on the old Bumblebee, mainly with the goal of increasing the stability of the display. At the same time, the other half is also made into a semi-transparent design. Although a little mobility is sacrificed, it can still pose a lot of shapes, so it feels like a more reasonable product positioning. And the final product is the head height is about 57 centimeters. The total height including wings can exceed 60 centimeters, and the weight is 2.8 kilograms, so it is undoubtedly a collectible work. There will be basically no problem for old players in the building experience, but for novices with little building experience, the building difficulty is also relatively large. You can see that the building manual is divided into 735 steps in total. If according to the 5,692 parts mark on the color box, the average number of parts per step is 7, which is relatively high. Some of the building steps also have unreasonable problems, or some small errors that are easier to fix. But there are no major problems that affect the display of the finished product, stability, and linkage. In terms of packaging, it can be seen that it is similar to the previous V5007. A very large color box is divided into 9 parts and 6 major steps. In addition, there is a transparent sticker like this in the set. Well, this review ends here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.